Okay, this is Dennis Young here, podcast number 15. And everybody out there, we've had some great guests and another special guest today. My first UK guest, and Graham Dowdall, pleasure meeting you. Thanks for doing
Pleasure to
this.
meet you, Dennis. Yeah.
So I guess we could start off with your background, how you were got interested in music and percussion, drums.
Yeah. Music's always been in my life. My grandfather was a church organist, and I was a boy soprano singer. Uh,
Oh, okay.
but like happens with all boys, your voice breaks. And
Yep.
I fell out of love with the sound I made, really. And about the same time, well, actually, before that, I'd started to want to play the drums. Um, Not sure exactly what was the initial motivation, but I had cardboard boxes and I had pencils and I used to play on those. And then for my, I think, 10th Christmas, I got a Ringo Starr plastic snare drum.
How about
And
that?
that was the first proper drum I had. And so I just played really. I had I've had two drumming lessons in my life. Um, and that's it really. Other than that, I've just played and played and really played with other people and played on my own, primarily just making stuff up, I suppose. I
Okay.
got a band together when I was kind of 15, doing pretty weird stuff. I mean, we tried a couple of covers, but we were never good. We
Hmm.
covered a Captain Beefheart's song, and a couple of other things. But in the end, we thought, well, we can't do this very well, so let's just make our own stuff up. So we did, and it was pretty weird. We had a very early synthesizer.
Hmm.
One of the guys' dad worked for the BBC, the British radio and TV company, and
Oh,
he was
okay.
an electronics engineer. So he built for his son a tone generator, ring modulator, and then turned that into a synth in 1970, which
Oh,
was
okay.
pretty early on.
Wow. That is.
Yeah. So that little band played a few gigs. Then, we all went our separate ways, and I took a different route for a few years, but kept playing. And then 1980, really, I was doing what you would call free improvisation, I suppose, free jazz. Just so like playing gigs where you would just make stuff up in
Right.
public. And I, at a gig, a couple was sitting in the corner and they were a bit different to most of the audience who were sort of beard stroking kind of jazzers. It was
How
this
about that?
very ultra arty couple in the corner, and
Hmm.
they came over to me at the end, and they turned out to be Linda and Ian. Linda being the lead singer of Ludus,
Okay.
um, and they came over to me and asked me to be in their band, Ludus, which was I was in London. Ludus was a Manchester band, so
Okay.
I thought I heard the stuff. It was interesting. They were very cool. Manchester was incredibly exciting in 1980. You had Joy Division just emerging,
That's
um,
true.
and you had a certain ratio, and you had all these different bands floating around. And because it's relatively small compared to London, you met
Right.
everyone. You got to know everyone
How
very
about
quickly.
that?
So I joined Ludus, really.
And dub was happening back then too, right? In that area, dub reggae was really
Well,
big.
yeah, I mean, that was, to be honest, musically, that was one of my biggest influences.
How about that?
Um, through, I suppose, the second half of the 70s, I spent a lot of time with Rastafarians,
Hmm.
and we spent a lot of time, to be honest, smoking ganja and listening to King Tubby, Scientist,
Oh,
uh,
that.
Scratch, all those kind of dub producers. Um, and I loved, and I still do love dub. I love the space. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
the reverbs. I love the taking the ingredients, breaking them down, putting them back together, which I think is an enormous fundamental to the music I've been interested in ever since, really.
And that's what I think with Liquid. We were heavy influenced by dub because there was, even though there was a lot of happening at times, there was space, and
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people have mixed. remixed our songs or used it, parts
Obviously,
of it,
yeah,
because we were listening to a lot of Dub, Fela. We were listening to a lot of Public Image a little bit at the
yeah,
time, all types of stuff that was influencing the band. Can
yeah,
was an influence.
yeah.
So that's
Likewise.
so then in the 80s, how did you ever meet Nico? That's an interesting story.
Okay,
I
so
have one.
yeah, I mean, Ludus, my life in Ludus burnt brightly and burnt out quite quickly, to be honest.
Okay.
Um, weirdly, the first day I met Ludus, I went for a rehearsal, and the door at the flat was answered by a rather geeky guy wearing glasses, and he said, "My name's Stephen." And we were sitting, Stephen and I were sitting, chatting, drinking tea. And he says, "I've just written a book about the New York Dolls." And
How
I said,
about
"Oh,
that?
that's interesting." And Stephen turned out to be Morrissey,
How about that? Wow.
um, who was initially our tea boy and would introduce us on stage and started to write for the UK music mags.
Okay.
So I was in Ludus. We were doing pretty well. We struggled to find a bass player endlessly, but we were doing pretty well. But it was about Linda. Linda really had to be the star, and she's
Mm.
been a pretty successful artist since. And I think she resented the fact, one, that I was getting a lot of attention, two, that I was musically promiscuous. I would work with other people, really,
Okay.
and she didn't really like that. And also, in her terms, my haircut of the time wasn't trendy enough.
Oh boy. Huh.
So, as a huge shock, after probably our best ever gig at a festival called Futurama, they sacked me.
Oh.
Um, with a letter through the manager's door. The manager was a guy called Richard Boone, who ran New Hormones label, the Buzzcocks label.
How
Very,
about that?
yeah, very important figure, Richard, in independent music, really. And so I was staying with him, and I got the sack through the door. And
No.
I went into the New Hormones office later that day or the next day, and basically the phone didn't stop ringing with people. "Oh, we've heard you've left Ludus. Do you want to come and work
How
with us?"
about that? Wow.
And one of the people who approached me was a chap called Alan Wise, who is another legendary Manchester figure,
Okay.
who had just taken Nico under his wing.
How
She'd,
about that?
she'd come to Manchester with a heroin habit, pretty down on her luck, and Alan became quite infatuated with Nico and offered to put together for her an interesting band.
Oh,
So,
about that.
yeah. So he
Yeah.
invited me to join, and so I went back up to Manchester. I was in London that day. Went back up to Manchester and to a rehearsal studio, the scuzziest rehearsal studio
Oh
you
my
could ever have,
gosh.
called
Ugh.
the Rialto. Everybody rehearsed there, and walked in, and there was Nico.
How
I
about
mean,
that?
pretty imposing presence, as you
I
know,
imagine. Oh yeah.
and so I was sort of quaking a little bit, and I sat down next to Nico with my percussion and stuff. And the microphone in this scuzzy rehearsal studio wouldn't work. But Nico was a trooper, and we
Okay.
rehearsed. And as soon as she started to sing, every hair on my body just stood on end.
Oh, I
It's like,
can imagine.
oh my God, I'm right next to this sound.
A
Um,
legend, right? Oh,
God. So that's how I came to work with
how about
Nico.
that? Now, all the songs? Did she have them in her head that you were going to play, or did you do improvisation in those
In the
rehearsals?
early days, she had some songs from her previous last record.
Right.
And then we started to improvise and jam stuff that became the songs that were later on a album we did together called Camera Obscura in about
Well, that's a
85.
great record. Oh
Yeah,
wow, that's a fantastic record. So that happened. And did you tour with her in the U.S. or did
not in
you?
the US.
Okay,
We we toured extensively, mostly in Europe.
got it.
I mean, hundreds of gigs in Europe.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
some videos of some of her shows, and it's really something the way she gets up to the mic, and it's just fascinating.
I mean, it has to be said it was up and down because, for a long time, at times heroin ruled her lifestyle because she
Right.
had, you know, to me, heroin is not the least creative drug out there, but what it is hard to get. And the getting of heroin is the issue, really. And so there would be gigs where there was no money, where things went bad. And so I would occasionally quit. And then I'd get this phone call and it would be, hello, it's Nico. Things are much better. Will you
That's
come
funny.
join the band again? And of course, you can't say no to Nico.
Of course. When's the
So,
next practice, right? Where's the gig, right?
yeah, exactly. Where are we going, Nick?
Where
Yeah.
are we going, right? That's
Yeah.
amazing. And I was wondering that I have a friend here, Brad Kleiman, who's part
Oh,
of
yeah.
our group. A great record he did that I produced.
Mhm.
And he's a huge Nico fan. And we did this record together, and he did all the songs. I produced it, had some track. He had a question about the last concert you did with Nico. Those
Oh,
new
yeah.
songs,
Berlin.
were they recorded at all before that, or they just never happened?
It's really interesting because we were hired to come up with new material to represent the Berlin Planetarium.
Oh, how about that?
So we were given 3 days plugged into the PA with all the stars and stuff going around above us
How about
to
that?
write and conceive and rehearse the material.
Oh my gosh.
So we did. And the gig was recorded and it has been released as an album. But I mean, it was an incredible event because it's a luxury to have such an environment to compose and write in
Absolutely.
3 days. And of course, it was Nico's kind of hometown. So it was back to her roots. Her auntie came to the gig. Nico was very healthy at that point. So it was an incredibly happy time.
Wow. Now, was there a video done of that or just the audio of
I've
that
not
show?
seen a video of that.
Okay.
I suppose it was very dark because we had all the stars flying in the skies.
Right. And we had a light show, I'm sure, with the planetarium, all the
It was
stars, right?
incredible. Yeah,
I can imagine. That must have been unbelievable.
it was
Wow.
unbelievable. Yeah.
And then you went to Pere Ubu. Was that after?
Much after, long after. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They were a great band.
Yeah. I mean, so Nico died very sadly in 88.
Okay.
And then I sort of spent a while working with various projects, both sort of poppy and more avant-garde, including getting to go to Eastern Siberia for a shamanist music festival, which was one of the
Wow.
experiences of
How
my
about
life,
that?
really. A place called Yakutsk, where the warmest it got was minus 30 centigrade, so
Holy
incredibly
smoke.
cold. So I did that, and I started to do kind of electronic dance music, really, in the early 90s, and had a couple of projects doing the kind of white label vinyls, take them to the shops, sell them, that kind of thing. Did okay doing that, and then started the Gagarin project, my current solo project, about 95.
Oh, wow. That's a while back.
And
How about that?
one of the other project I'd had, Sonic Suno, just before that, had a manager, a chap called called Nick Hobbs. And Nick
Okay.
was also the manager of Pere Ubu.
Oh, okay.
So a few years later, really, David Thomas from Pere Ubu had a sort of solo project where he had supporting musicians called the Two Pale Boys. And one of them was the trumpeter Andy Diagram from the band James. And Andy had to go off with James to do some gigs. And so Nick suggested that I deputize for Andy. And I met David and I said, look, David, I'm not a trumpeter. He said, no, but what you do is good. So that's all that matters. So we did a couple of gigs in Holland and a couple of radio shows, and we just hit it off. So Andy came back to the band. So David asked me then to be the live sound guy for the band.
Oh, how about that?
And I told him I'd never done live sound, but in typical way, he said, but you make good records, you can do it. And David does that. He just gives you confidence to do whatever. And so I did that for a while, and then he got me to do live sound for Pere Ubu. And after, I guess, a couple of years of doing that, I got a phone call from him. And as you see, my nickname is Dids. And he said to me, Dids, he says, I'm afraid I've got to sack you as sound man. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, yeah, big pause, because I want you to join the band.
There you go. Boy, that's pretty right there, right in your face, right?
Right in your face. That's David Thomas. Yeah.
His records are, think I have that solo record. It's very intense.
Yeah. I mean, David is very intense.
Huh. So that
Everything about David's intense. Yeah.
Those must have been exciting shows playing with him and that band.
Yeah. I still do it. I'm still in Pere Ubu to this day.
How about that?
I spoke to David yesterday. He's one of my closest friends now. Yeah. So I joined, and I suppose I've been on the last 5 albums, really.
Oh, that's great! Wow, I didn't know they were still.
Oh yeah, I mean he relocated to the UK some time ago, and so the focus has been much more Europe and UK than US. Yeah.
Have you ever come to the US to play any shows in America?
Oh, the US Musicians Union has been very resistant to having UK musicians come for a band they see as American.
How about that?
So we've never managed to get the work permits.
Well, Liquid never played in the UK in the early days. We went to France, we went to other places, but it was not till we got the reunion shows that we finally went over there.
Right.
So that was kind of strange, considering that Ed Bauman, 99 Records had such a connection with bringing over the Pig Bag record and everything else, the dub stuff. The Metal Box record, 99 brought over. I think was one of the first to have it at the store, the Metal Box. So, that's too bad that they do that. But what are you going to do?
It is.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. So most of the touring's been Europe-based, really, and some pretty brutal tours. David likes to work hard. So, we would do 50 gigs in 52 days in 13 countries.
Holy smoke. Wow. That's amazing. Now, you're still doing that hard?
No. I mean,
so.
The last time it was like that was about 6 or 7 years ago. David's been pretty unwell for the last few years. He had
sorry to hear that.
Type 2 diabetes, and he's on, he's getting treatment for that. He's mostly a wheelchair user really now.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, give him my best. I'm sorry to hear that.
I will do, but he's still performing just as well. We did a gig in Brighton 2 weeks ago. We did a big festival in Pisa in Italy last summer.
Wow. Well, and how the audiences? You have people come to your shows?
The great thing about playing in Pere Ubu is you can get an audience in any city, anywhere in the world. You won't have an enormous audience, but you'll have a few hundred anywhere in the world.
Well, that's this day and age, that's a big plus.
Yes.
A couple hundred people to come out. Yeah. Unless you're a big star or a huge star. I mean, that's really good considering.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I mean it little, you go to a small city in, Eastern Czech Republic and you get 200 people, you go to Munich, you get 500. And it's like that. Everywhere you go, there are crazy loyal Pere Ubu fans.
That's great. Well, the last show Liquid did in London, in my recollection, was a Halloween show, 2010, and it was a bust.
Yeah.
There was hardly anybody. There was people there, but they didn't seem to be that interested or knew our music. So,
well, I mean, you had a cult following in the UK.
Right. A little bit.
Yeah.
We did. And, people still know our music, thank God. I don't know. We just never thought after a couple of years we'd still be 40 years later. Our music is still, there's still interest in it.
Good.
I don't take anything for granted, that people like your music. It's a great thing. Now, you went on to Geo Records. I went on your Bandcamp site. Wow, you got a lot of music on there.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, when I started the Gagarin solo project and other stuff, I couldn't really be bothered to go touting to small labels. So I just thought I'll set up my own label. I'll get distribution, low level distribution, but be
Right.
able to put out stuff when I want, how I want.
Well,
So
that's my
I do,
philosophy these days.
yeah,
I don't deal with any more labels. The labels I dealt with were usually one and done. And
yeah,
I decided I have a Bandcamp page. I work with these guys, Primitive Substance, a collective, me and two other guys, and we just make music now. And I
yeah,
put out different types of music. That's the way to go.
yeah,
And then if there's a big enough following for a record, you put a limited CD or vinyl out.
yeah.
That's the way. So how did you get the name? How did you?
Gagarin. Well, as I said, I was in Siberia in the early 90s, and we did quite a bit of touring in Russia.
Oh,
And also,
wow.
Yuri Gagarin is a Russian folk hero. And
Oh, okay. Nice.
in those days, you could buy these, and I'll just take them on off my music computer.
Sure.
You could buy these amazing enamel badges all over Russia. And I found this beautiful enamel badge
Oh, that's beautiful.
of Yuri Gagarin.
How about that?
So
That's
that was
great.
that's what prompted me.
That almost looks like an astronaut.
He was an astronaut.
Oh, he was. That's why. That's
He's
why.
the
That's
first
what I
man in
thought. I didn't.
space. Yeah.
Oh, how about that? I didn't put two and two together. How about that? And well, your music is spacey. It's got
Yeah.
that spacey element. That's perfect for what you do.
Yeah, I thought so. So, I've stuck with it for a long time now. I had a new album come out last week on the 12th of April, which was the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's first space flight.
How about that?
So I just
Now,
tied it in just for a bit of fun, really.
do you record everything at home, or is it?
Yeah,
Do you
well,
go to a
where I
studio?
am now is my studio, really. So this is where I do most of my stuff. At the
Oh, great.
percussion and stuff around there. There's more
Oh,
synths
I
and
see that. Oh, yeah.
and
That
over
looks
there
great.
there's more synths and electronics. Yeah, so yeah, I record here basically.
You save a lot of money. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I have what I need. Yeah,
And you don't have to rush. There's no
no,
time constraint.
no,
I have a little studio here in my house, a Moog synthesizer, keyboards, my marimba, Pro Tools I use, a simple Pro Tools
yeah,
program. I'm not going to get complicated like some of these engineers. And then you go to a studio, some of these guys are really fanatics. Don't touch this, they're
yeah.
really, it's a whole different world, these guys. So then you got to deal with that element. Plus, it gets expensive.
Yeah, I remember spending so much time in studios just watching the clock and thinking, oh, if I take another 15 minutes, that's going to cost another £50, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
And you get rid of that, don't you, when you record at home?
Yeah. Well, my record Shadow, that took a year to do on and off. But now that I think about it, I'm glad I did use the studio for that because it was more or less songwriter type of record.
Right.
And I went from just going in there to record a couple acoustic songs, and before you know it, it was a full blown record. Oh, well, why don't we try this, try that?
Yeah.
So that's what happens. And this Roshi that you're working with, she's fantastic.
She's amazing, isn't she? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, really
Yeah.
good.
She's really good. She's got a very interesting background. I mean, she's Iranian, but she was born in Wales, and Wales has a great choral vocal tradition. So she's sung all her life, and we met, don't know, maybe 20 years ago, really now, and started a music project quite a long time after that. But
How about that?
she's quite amazing. Yeah, I mean, she's kind of trained as a composer. So she's got that semi-classical thing along with an Iranian folk thing, along with interest in more avant-garde stuff. So it's a really interesting combination of what she does and what I do.
Now there was one record. I don't know if you like the band Henry Cow. Did you ever
Oh, I
hear
know
them?
them well. Yeah.
Dagmar Krause.
Yeah.
Did
Oh,
you ever hear
Dagmar.
her?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the records, one of the songs, one of her voices sound like that a little bit. I
Okay.
thought of
Yeah.
that. I was a big Henry Cow fan as growing
Yeah.
up.
I saw them numerous times, and actually Chris Cutler, the drummer, has worked with Pere Ubu in the last few years, as well as in the distant past. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's an amazing drummer. I mean, he's just so
Amazing drummer.
quirky and so much fills and Like
Yeah,
I think that goes the same line of Robert Wyatt was
yeah,
an amazing
exactly.
drummer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Those,
there were two big influences on me. Yeah,
and that whole Canterbury scene was really incredible. The music that
yeah.
came out of there.
Interestingly, I live near there now. I mean, I'm a Londoner, but I moved down to a town called Margate in East Kent about 2 years ago, which is about 20 minutes from Canterbury.
Oh, how about that? Because I also enjoyed Hatfield in the North.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Pip Pile on drums.
Yeah,
He just died a few years back. I don't know. It was like a sudden. I
that's
don't know. It was a heart attack or something. That was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sad. But there was some great music that came out of there.
Great music. Yeah.
And then you did some great stuff with Pere Ubu and Nico, and it's really something. And so that current project, what about live shows? Are you planning on any?
Yeah, I mean, I've done 5 in the last 3 weeks. I've got another 12 coming up in the next 4 months.
Holy smoke! Wow. Now these good paying gigs. I don't want to ask. Are they just play because you like to play?
I play because I like to play. Some of them pay okay.
Yeah,
Which is the answer to that, Dennis. What I'm finding though, because with the album, I've done CDs, and what I find is playing gigs, you sell CDs.
that's right. That's true. If
Yeah,
you're not out there, you're not going to sell too many
exactly.
CDs.
No, people like to go to the gig, come away with a memento of the CD.
That's true. I didn't think of it. I mean, I don't play for money these days, unless it's liquid, and we haven't played since 2011, and I don't think there's plans of playing again. So that's what happens. We kind
Yeah.
of ran out of time. But you've had a great run here, and you keep going.
I'm keeping going. I mean, I'm fighting illness at the moment, but I intend to keep going until I
That's
can't. Yeah.
great. I only found out you through Brad Kleiman, who was a huge Nico fan.
Yeah, I think we're
And
Facebook friends. Yeah.
yeah, and he said you got to get a hold of Graham, get him on your podcast, and I'm glad I did. It's really
I'm glad
great to
you
meet
did.
you.
You know,
And
I feel as we get older, it's more interesting to talk about what we've done than it was when we were younger.
that's true. And I've had some really amazing guests. I've only done this a month now. I'm going
Right.
to slow up a little bit. I mean, you're like the 15th guest already.
Wow.
So there's a good library now of people to listen to, and it's been quite a learning experience.
Yeah, I
I
can
never
imagine.
realized what people did or how they started. It's just amazing. And I want to get more people from England, UK to come on, and as it goes along, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in getting David Thomas on
I
sometime,
would
just let
love
me know.
to. Tell him
He
I'd be very interested.
he'd be up for that. You
That'd
know,
be great. I love his music. He's a pioneer.
he is a pioneer, and he's unbelievably interesting.
That's what I want. Okay. That'd be
He's
better yet.
David is. I mean, David's a unique character.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he, he has a reputation for being very grumpy, and people have
Okay.
said he's difficult to work with and all this. He's not. He's grumpy. He lacks self-control,
Okay.
and if something frustrates him, it comes out. Um, but having said that, he is the most supportive, rewarding musician to work with
How about
because
that?
he just makes you feel good about what you do.
See, that's important. I think that's very important. I've
Yeah.
had the chance to do that here with a couple younger bands here. There's a band, Simon Spine. They're based out of New York. Really great guys. Appreciated what I did. I went to see them live. Fantastic live. Very appreciative. Nice people. That's when it's worth it to do something with somebody.
Yeah, it is. And with David, he never you do a gig and he's never great gig guys. He's never like that. But you know
Okay.
what I mean? It doesn't need to be said. And he just drops the odd little word of sort of praising every now and again that just makes you feel really, really confident. And he lets you be as daring as you can be.
Oh, well, that's good. Within the song, right? The
Yeah.
daring, that's great.
Because
Yeah,
he
because you
never
like
looks
that.
backwards. He's only interested in looking forwards musically.
How about that's great to hear. That's the kind of people I like to talk to or you want to play with because
Yeah.
they keep it fresh
Keep it fresh,
and they
exactly.
keep it challenging for the player, it sounds like, to
Yeah.
come up with interesting parts. And
I mean,
yeah,
he will sometimes, if we do we do improvised gigs. The year
okay,
before last, we did a hour and a half improv gig in front of 700 people at a festival in Paris, and he will just throw out to you, "Give me the frozen wastes of Alaska,"
that's funny.
or "The wheels fallen off the cart. Tell me about it," or things like that, and you just got to in the moment respond.
Now, what do you bring to those shows? You bring your electronic kit, or you just
Electronic kits and a couple of
okay?
synths, yeah.
I thought about getting an electronic drum set, but I was a drummer as a kid, but I never, after that, I never got a drum set again. But one of these days, I'm going to look at one
Yeah.
because it's good to keep playing with sticks. And even though
Yeah, I mean, I mostly do hands these days on smaller drum pads, electronic pads, but I still have the stick kit as well that I use sometimes. Yeah.
now I got interested in, if you want to know something with the rototoms, if
Oh
you
yeah.
saw me, I saw Bill Bruford play them in the band UK
Yeah.
when I was in high school. I think I was still in high school, or right, I was in college, and it blew me away. They played in New Jersey. Eddie Jobson was the
Oh
keyboardist.
yeah.
It was a real proggy show, but
Yeah.
after I saw that, I said I got to get rototoms.
Rototoms.
So I added a rototom to my drum set. That's how that started in the late '70s. So I didn't have the rototoms. I had them before Liquid.
Right. Yeah. I've got some in my garage somewhere, some rototoms still. Yeah.
They're great.
They
They're
are
great.
great.
Now there was a timpani rototom I saw once.
Was
I
there?
wish
No,
I bought. I wish
yeah.
I bought it. It actually had a pedal,
Wow.
and you could rototom, but I've never seen it again. It was years ago when I saw it at a drum store, but I never saw that again. I should have bought it. It was one of those one of a kind things because you could imagine rotating that plus with the pedal,
Yeah.
you could get some pretty nice effects
I bet you
happening with
could.
that.
Yeah.
So maybe someday we could do a session or something. Just send me some music over.
Yeah.
I'd be
By
more
all
than
means.
happy to play something on your record or marimba
Yeah.
or
Vice
whatever
versa.
you want me
Yeah.
to play. So where can
Great.
they find your music app? Bandcamp, the best place?
Bandcamp is the best place, yeah,
Okay,
because that's where it lies. That's where you can buy, where you can download. So yeah, Bandcamp, Gagarin Bandcamp is the best. Yeah,
because I want to put that in the description
great.
where you could find this.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think of anything else. You have anything else you want to add here?
No,
I
it's
mean, I
been
think it's
great. It's been great, Dennis.
fantastic.
Nice to
Thank
chat.
you for
Yeah,
doing this. I appreciate it. Everybody, I appreciate doing this podcast. I've learned so much,
yeah, I
and
can
it's so
imagine.
nice
Yeah,
to meet everybody. But you're right. After we get older, the stories, you know, maybe we forget a lot of them, but whatever we remember is still something good to tell everybody and let everybody know that we're still alive here and
exactly.
still
Still
going
doing
at
it.
it.
Yeah,
Right. We're driven.
yeah, we are.
So,
There's no
well, Grant,
choice.
that's true. You're right. That's true. Well, listen, it was great meeting you, Graham.
Great to meet
Keep
you,
up the
Dennis.
keep up the great music, and we'll talk again sometime. And tell David anytime he wants to do a little podcast, I'm here.
Yeah, I will do. When I speak to him next, I'll mention it and then put him in touch. Yeah,
Okay, fantastic. Well, nice
great.
meeting you, Graham.
Nice to
Take
meet you.
care.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.